Welcome. I'm Tina Perreault, Treasurer of the Sunshine Coast Regional District, and this is our 2014 budget presentation after round 2. Today we'll be covering a few items. First, we'll begin with our Get to Know the Regional District video, followed by our planning and budget process, some budget figures, assessment numbers and how they've impacted taxation in the area, taxation and fees, projects, and other information, followed by questions.
More than 28,000 people call the Sunshine Coast home, enjoying our parks, beaches, forests, towns, and coastal lifestyle in the traditional territories of the Squamish and Sechelt First Nations. We're a true community of communities united by sunshine. Regional districts serve 3 important purposes: representation for rural areas. The Sunshine Coast Regional District represents 5 rural areas and 3 municipalities. Provide a framework for municipalities and rural areas to collaborate, and provide both regional and sub-regional services. We are also the Sunshine Coast Regional Hospital District, which is responsible for providing capital funding for St. Mary's Hospital. The Sunshine Coast Regional District provides over 45 distinct services to our community, from fire protection to public transit, from community parks and recreation facilities to water services. Some regional district services are provided to all areas in our region, such as landfills, cemeteries, emergency planning, and recycling services. While other services are provided to parts of the region, who pay for the associated costs. Delivering these services costs approximately $30 million, and an average of an additional $7 million is spent on infrastructure each year. But there are some things we're not responsible for, and these fall under other jurisdictions. The Regional District is one of many organizations on the Sunshine Coast taking steps together towards a more sustainable, economically viable, and collaborative community. Our strategic plan is fundamental in guiding decision-making to reach specific goals for the future. For example, the region is working towards reducing water consumption by 33% by 2020. Reduce, reuse, and recycling programs currently divert more than 50% of materials from local landfills. The goal is to divert another 15% by 2016, striving towards zero waste. Working towards these specific targets saves expensive capital investments in the future and helps maintain and improve the region for future generations. Local governments are facing new challenges every day, and we need to work together in order to build a strong community. Become an active resident of the Sunshine Coast in whatever way makes sense for you. Be a trail host in our parks or at Dakota Ridge. Provide your comments and ideas on new plans and programs. These plans guide current and future action. Help clean up illegal dump sites and ensure our land remains pristine. Or participate in one or a variety of citizen advisory committees. This region is our home. Let's sustain it together. Connect with us to find out more, and let us know how you or your neighbors are leading the way to a more sustainable, resilient, collaborative community.
Hopefully you've enjoyed our video. As mentioned, the Sunshine Coast Regional District covers 28,000 residents, 3 municipalities, and includes 5 rural areas. Today's presentation will cover the regional district as a whole. Our planning and budget process begins with our strategic plan. That process starts in May and June, which is then followed up with our work plan updates, which is prepared in November of each year, and where the board prepares for their budget and what projects will be included at that time. It's then followed with 3 rounds of budget, which are in January, February, and March, followed by the adoption of our budget, which is on March the 27th this year. This is then followed up with variance reporting and work plan updates, as well as strategic plan updates throughout the year. Some key issues that we had to address in the 2014 budget were how to fund aging community recreation facilities. Going into 2014 budget, we had a $147,000 deficit from the 2013 fiscal year. We also addressed and reviewed 5 and 20-year capital plans, which show that in the short term we have over $3.8 million worth of needs, with 20-year with over $10 million that will be required in capital maintenance for those facilities. In order for us to fund these projects, we identified that we would need to increase our recreation limit bylaw in order to fund projects. Secondly, we also had to address our landfill shortfalls and whether or not we could do this without increasing tipping fees. Good news is that diversion efforts are working, which means that less and less is coming to the landfill due to recycling efforts. However, decreasing revenues and funding for our closure costs is an issue that we need to address. Landfills also had a $135,000 deficit with $351,000 of revenue shortfalls for 2014. So regional district budget for 2014 round 2, we're coming in with approximately a $41.41 million budget. That's slightly down from 2013 due to reduced capital costs. So our larger functions in the regional district are recreation and culture, which includes the community recreation facilities, our parks, as well as museum and library funding. It's followed by water and wastewater, so that includes the 2 North and South Pender, as well as the regional water system. Followed by our environmental services is our 3rd largest functions, and that includes the landfills and recycling costs. Our sources of revenue to fund these services comes from mostly taxation with 37%, followed by user fees, as well as grants and parcel taxes. So assessments in the area have decreased 2.85 overall. However, we have had some market growth by 1.36 in the region. Market conditions have declined 4.21%. These do have some impact changes as far as assessment proportions to all the different areas. So coming into 2014 round 3 budget, we are facing $15.497 million worth of taxation. This means an increase of 6.58% over 2013. So impacts of assessments, if we would have kept the budget the same as 2013, assessments would have changed an area such as area F by 11.02 decrease, which this is West Howe Sound area, where the District of Sechelt would have increased taxation by 4.15. The regional district budget makes up approximately over 20 to 25% of the municipal budgets. So taxation and fees. Parcel taxes and user fees for our regional water service has increased 4.66 over 2013. This means the typical household will see an increase of $21. For refuse collection, and this is only for the rural electoral areas, has increased 5%, and this increase is due to increased tipping fees that were done in 2013, and with the North and South Pender Harbor water services with an increase of over 7%. And that's mostly due to extensive infrastructure. For instance, North Pender Harbor is getting a new water treatment plant, which should be operational in 2014. So some of the projects that were approved between round 1 and 2, some of the highlights in protection services are increased funding for the Gibsons and District Fire, as well as some other emergency planning projects. We also have the Transit Future Plan and transit enhancements that were approved. We have significant increases to regulatory requirements for our landfills, and our water utility services continue with significant increases in capital maintenance and water conservation projects. In planning and development, we're doing some geotech studies in Area A, Pender-Egmont area, as well as McNabb Creek, with continued funding for the Affordable Housing Committee. Recreation and culture, as we've mentioned before, has significant legal costs and capital maintenance needs, so we're having to address how funding will be addressed there. Parks and cycling paths, we'll be doing over $123,000 worth of capital maintenance in parks with over $360,000 of new path infrastructure. So some decisions that are needed for round 3 will be how to fund landfill and green waste funding. We also have corporate asset management plan and development implementation and how we will fund that for the corporation, recreation capital funding maintenance, and funding for rural grants and aids and economic development initiatives, as well as finalizing all the budgets. So some other items. Our HR plan has increased slightly over 2013, and that's due to some increased operations staff in our community recreation facilities to address those deferred maintenance items. And our support service costs have increased slightly over 2013 due to increased staffing costs. As well, the regional district is the regional hospital district, and we will be seeing the completion of the St. Mary's Hospital expansion, which the regional hospital district is contributing $15.9 million. We are excited for the next stage, which is the renovation phase of the project, and it continues to fund minor capital equipment in the amount of $240,000. Taxation for the regional hospital district is a little over $1.8 million for 2014. So this concludes our presentation. All this information can be found on our website, and our budget documents can also be found there. We encourage you to provide any feedback or any questions that you have on our feedback form. Our round through budget meeting will be on Monday, March the 10th at 9 a.m., and we encouraged all the public to attend.